Welcome to a community update from the Department of Senior Affairs. I'm your host, Ed Nunez. Today's title of the show is Identity Theft, Facts and Tips to Protect Yourself. And with us to talk about that is the Regional Vice President of Harvard Risk, Judy Johnston. Thank you so much for joining us today. Sure appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate being invited to do this. I think it's an important topic to get information out on.
Well, I think one of the things that I told you is that how I get a lot of shows is by presentations at centers, and you were doing one at, I believe, at Manzano Mesa, and I've gotten a lot of the different ones when I was at North Valley, when I was a manager over there. And I think anything to protect seniors or anything like that is information. And gosh, you mentioned a couple of things to me when we talked in the office at Manzano Mesa the other day that kind of like, oh man, you know, an identity theft happens every day. So we're going to talk about some ways that seniors can protect themselves. And one of the first questions we have for you is how prevalent is identity theft in America? And I gather that it's very prevalent. So if you want to describe how prevalent it is.
It's growing every day. It's the #1 growing crime in America right now. There are 27,000 identity thefts daily. That's pretty mind-boggling. And about the time you think you know how to protect and defend, the criminals come up with new ways. So it's an ongoing thing.
Describe that, though. You mentioned 27,000 daily.
Right.
Which, you know, you're talking about identity theft from, you know, your personal ID. You mentioned passport the other day. Can you mention some of the ways, you know, in other words, what they're stealing from you?
Right.
So
Right.
Can you mention some of that?
Most people associate it with their credit cards or their bank accounts, which that's only 17% of identity theft today. And to be honest, credit card companies and banking institutions are doing a very good job of protecting their customers. So there's other ways that it's being stolen. One of the ways is your driver's license, and people know that. If you lose your driver's license, you should be really diligent about getting that canceled and corrected, because people can do criminal actions with your driver's license. They can open up accounts, they can get service with your driver's license. There's all kinds of mischief they can do without you even knowing with your driver's license. One of the other ones is Social Security numbers. And everyone knows there's been a big tax refund fraud. People are filing your tax refund before you get a chance to. And now you have a big problem. And they do that because they have your Social Security number.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is interesting. We'll talk more about that. The tax return, I'm very interested in that, because keep going, because again, this is information that's just very
TurboTax
important.
last year had a problem. And people that had filed TurboTax previously went to do their taxes this year, but someone had already filed on their Social Security number. So I don't know the fix for that. If they can get into your Social Security number, what can you do? You know.
Wow. Yeah, that's very important. Anyway, keep going, please, because people are going to want to know this, and they need to know.
Right. And if they have your Social Security number, there's all kinds of things like criminal action. They can use your identity to go out and commit crimes, and you might not know it till you get stopped for a traffic ticket, and all of a sudden you're being hauled into jail for something you've never done. It's unbelievable. And then one of the biggest growing ones, there's some protection now, but medical records. So if you lose your ID or someone gets a hold of your medical records, they can go to a hospital, get work done, and now your medical record has changed. But the hardest thing to clear up is that because people are aware of HIPAA protection, you can't do anything about that ID on your medical record because it's not yours. So that's one of the hardest ones to clear up.
Is the medical one.
Is the medical one.
I would think that would take some years, it sounds like, the way
it's hard
to clear it up.
It has to be someone, and honestly, you probably can't do it yourself. You'll probably have to hire someone because of HIPAA
or
an investigator. There's ways to do it, which is one of the things I'll be talking about at the senior centers when I get out there. Minor ID, and I know we're talking to seniors right now, but minor ID, Social Security number is one of the biggest thefts. You have to get a Social Security number for your children when they're born now, and nobody looks at it till they go get a driver's license or a job. So I had a case just a month ago, a woman, her daughter had become disabled, and they went to get Social Security disability for her, and they couldn't get it because her daughter had a job. Her daughter never had a job. Someone was using her ID. So they can use your ID to do things that aren't criminal. They don't raise eyebrows, red alerts, and you don't know they're doing it unless you're checking those things all the time.
And a lot of people don't do that
A
until
lot of
a red
people
flag
don't.
comes up.
Right.
And then, by
then you have a big problem.
oh man.
You have a big problem.
What a nightmare. Again, we're just scratching the surface
Yeah.
here, because I'm sure, we need 2-3 shows to finish everything that happens, or that,
Or how to fix it.
right. Anyway, gosh, what a lot of great information there. But I got to ask you this too. I mean, I guess to clean some of those things up, it's a nightmare. I'm sure. You mentioned the medical records, but I'm sure, gosh, you don't find out and you get flagged, and that's why we're having this show. And I guess the second question we want to ask you here is: my bank and credit card companies monitor my accounts. Is that enough to protect from identity theft? Because
No.
yeah. Can you tell us
It's
a
only
little bit about that? Because
17%. And like
yeah.
I said, the banks and credit card companies are doing good jobs of protecting what you have. But what you don't know, and you need the credit unions for this and being diligent looking, someone may use your identity and take out credit and make the bills. But your credit score is going to go down because now you have more credit out in your name. You may never get a red flag, but your ID may be being used.
Oh, wow, gosh, that again, that is such a nightmare. And again, how these, when they steal licenses, is the Social Security number on your? It's not, right? But they
No.
establish
Your birth date, your name.
is there. Okay.
So if that's all they
Most
need
of them
for
are photos,
something.
though, right? I mean, because if people steal it and people are really looking at your photo, that's not that person. I mean, wouldn't a
No.
lot of that be alleviated by just plainly looking at somebody and saying, well, that's not you? In other words, with all this
Right.
identity theft happening, are more people aware, not as aware? I mean, you would think they'd be more aware.
They're more aware, but so are the criminals, and they know how to make driver's license look very professional. You can go buy one, not an official one, but an illegal one that looks official, and it can be your information with someone else's picture. Kids used to do it way back when to get into bars.
Right.
Now they've gotten much more
Much more
professional.
sophisticated.
Yeah, to make them.
That's
So,
very interesting. So anyway, okay, I think just talking about that, like I said, that is such an important thing, because they got your Social Security. That happened to me a long time ago. Somebody was using my Social Security number. This is probably when I was 28 or 29, that said I had worked at a certain place. Like, no, I never worked at that place, so I had to kind of send some information in pertaining to that. But, by the time people find these things out, and we're going to find out a little bit more, you could be, you could be in the hole $25,000, $30,000. Now,
could.
you're not on the hook for that, right? You have to make sure you give them the information and things like that, right?
Right. So the credit and bank accounts, you have the federally insured amount and that. But if you get thrown in jail, you're going to need an attorney. And attorneys aren't cheap.
Right.
So to get you out of that, to be able to even go forward, you're going to have some out-of-pocket money.
And again, I think with all the social media we have now, it's much, I guess, computers and online and
Right.
internet and all the social media that's out there. It's much easier, I would guess, to steal now identities than it was then.
It is. And there's things like dumpster diving.
Oh, talk about that a little bit. Yeah, you know what? Because people wouldn't think about that, Judy. I mean,
Right.
I've heard of it. I'm sure people that are watching have heard of that. But talk about that a little bit, because not only are they dumpster diving for food, right? There's people that are doing that are homeless.
Right.
But talk about that a little bit, because that's one thing I forgot about.
Dumpster diving, they look for your information. I was just talking to someone this morning. If you get your mail at home, you should never put your bills to be collected from your home. That's a non-secure mailbox. So you want to make sure none of your information is going out where, I'm not accusing mailmen of stealing, but if you have your flag up, a criminal goes by and sees mail, will snag your mail and get your information. That's basically dumpster diving. Companies are very good about shredding things that doesn't happen there anymore. Something else they do, I was talking phone calling to get your information. This is a big thing for seniors. I want them to know. When they get a call and they have caller ID, and the caller ID will say, for instance, your bank. I'm not going to give a bank's name. Your bank. And you say, oh, it's my bank calling. You answer, and they said, we have a problem with your account. Can you tell us this, this, and this? You should never, ever give information on an incoming call about anything of yours. You hang up the phone and you call that company back and say, I got a phone call, they wanted to know this, was it you calling me? And usually it's not. Because now there's a program that criminals can get, and they can make their caller ID come up whatever they want. So
So it could be bank,
it could be,
like you said, Bank
it
of
could be
North
a bank,
America.
your bank, or your
yeah.
credit card company, and it looks like it's official calling you, and it's not.
That's because, okay, if you saw that caller ID, I saw Bank of whatever, and, if it was my bank, I wouldn't think twice about that.
I wouldn't
Because they have
either.
your account number, right? They're
Right.
saying, well, according to our records, here's your account, X, Y, Z. And,
Or they may say your last transaction was this.
okay, so sounding official.
Yeah.
That's gosh, so that's even become that sophisticated that they can have programs where even the caller looks like
Right.
it's legitimate.
Right. And the internet email, you may get an email that looks official again from your bank. We need to update your PIN number. Don't do it online. Again, go to your bank or call your bank and make sure they need something and it's not someone scamming out there with the bad name.
Okay, because a lot of people would fall for that. I think, and again, we're talking about senior affairs and senior issues. There's a lot of seniors at home, that are,
Right.
And I know that because I work in the department. I always say this, that seniors lonely, boredom, it could be nutrition, it could be medication. There's a lot of things that, every day. So if they get a call, they may be anxious to speak to somebody. You never know.
Right.
And it's a trusted person at that. So they may give information, he or she, that they never intended to, because again, when they get older and frail, things set in.
And not even older and frail. My generation, I'm a senior, I'll admit that. We were taught to trust people, and you can't. You can't trust these people on the phone, on the internet. You just don't know who to trust unless you definitely know the person. It's just really hard in today's age. It's
A lot
sad.
of, again, I always say this to my mother is 90, and she's still with, I was telling you that the other day, she's still with me. And, if anybody scammed my mother, my mother's in an assisted living home, but my blood even boils thinking about someone trying to fleece my mom. And, and I work with seniors every day. So, and people that would attempt to fleece seniors, and those are the easy targets. So for
They are
criminals, right? The
very
easiest target.
easy. They're very easy because we're trusting and we want to be friendly. We were taught to be friendly. Especially the Albuquerque area. These are the most friendly people I've ever met in my life.
I know you've lived. You remember you.
I've lived
mentioned
in other places.
in Idaho. You mentioned.
Yeah, and like the Seattle area and that. But everyone's so open and friendly here. It's scary.
New Mexicans are, as a whole, I've lived here my whole life. I think they're the greatest people in the world. Of course, I would say that. I've lived here.
Well, I say
But-
that, and I've only lived here 12 years.
You see, and that says a lot. But you're right. So, gosh, I wonder if there's any more, more or less cases of identity theft here, because I'm sure they go wherever. It doesn't matter. They can wherever they can feel like they can, fleece people. But you're right, because people are so friendly here and so trusting, and they don't. You know what? People here will give you the shirt off their back. They will.
They would.
They sure would.
They would. So I kind of wanted to talk about some of the things you can do to prevent this.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Oh, what? You know what, Judy? You're the star here, man. It's very much
Thanks.
okay. Go ahead.
So as far as financial information, old credit cards, credit card applications, you've been approved, you should be shredding that information. You should not just throw it away in the garbage, because there's where dumpster diving comes in. What I was telling someone, when I cut up a credit card to throw it away, I throw half away 1 week and I wait a week to throw the other half away, so it's never in the same garbage collection, because people go through garbage. It's a big fact of life. Protecting your Social Security number, most people know not to carry it with them. Don't leave it laying around the house, so if you get broken into, someone gets your Social Security card. That's one of the biggest things you need to protect. It should be in a safe place, and only take it out if you need it for something, some kind of legitimate registering for something. And don't give out, we talked about on the phone, don't give out information on an incoming call on the phone. Be very careful that it's a legitimate business you're talking to, and you call them and know it's them. Sometimes if you even ask, can I get a number to call you back, they won't give you a number, they'll hang up,
Wow.
because they know.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's a pretty good way to indicate. Even if the caller comes in, you have the car though, right, on the ID,
Right.
but it's all scam. So if you call back, they're not going to
Yeah.
answer.
Sometimes if you call back the number that came up, It's a number that's been disconnected because they don't take incoming calls.
Boy,
pretty
gosh, you got to,
interesting.
though, keep
Yeah.
going. I'm sorry, keep going.
And never click on links in your email from someone you don't know. And if it's someone you know just a first name of, because they'll use just first names, but it doesn't give the whole name, it's probably someone trying to get into your email or hacking. Email, we all have to live with it. We all need it every day. I call it a necessary evil. Be careful of your emails. And if you see an email and it has a web link after it, you can kind of see part of the email, you should probably delete that without even looking at it. It's a way to get in to your computer. Don't carry credit cards in your wallet or purse. If you're going shopping and you know you're going to need one, take it with you. But otherwise, don't take it with you. If you get your purse stolen, now you've lost everything. I usually only carry one at a time that I need daily, and that's what I do. One of the things you can do is copy every credit card you have, front and back, put it in a safe locked file, because if your wallet or something does get stolen, how many people know the 800 numbers to all those to cancel them?
Got to look those up.
You got to look them up. So take a front and back copy of each credit card and then put it in a safe place, and then you always have that information, so if something happens, you can look it up right away and get it taken care of. Passwords on your accounts, your PINs, your emails, whatever. Don't use obvious things like your birth date or the last four of your social or your mother's maiden name. Don't use things that people can guess. Even when you're creating, the questions, security questions, I carry a little book with me that has all those, because if it says your mother's maiden name, they can find that out. But if you make up a name, they'll never find out that made up name.
Gosh.
So
What links will they not stop at?
Right.
Okay.
What links? Let's see. Sorry. Oh, the credit, because I talked about someone could get your information and open a credit account. The best way to make sure that isn't happening, that they're not using it for their power bill or something, you have to get credit for everything, you should be checking the credit union reports. Do a credit report. Now, some places give you one, some give you another. Some credit cards give you your score, but they don't give you a full report. You probably should do a full report, and actually every 60 days, because that's how long you have to dispute something. It's
60 days?
Yeah. And then copy the whole contents of your wallet, because you never know. This is just personal peace of mind too, what's in your wallet, membership cards, whatever. You don't know what all they're getting, but if you have a copy of everything in your wallet, at least you have the peace of mind of knowing you know what was taken if you lose it or it gets stolen. And then order your Social Security earnings every year. There's a website for Social Security, and you can go on there and get your full Social Security report and see if there's unusual earnings, like a child who's never earned anything. Get a Social Security report. Oh, is someone using their number for a job? It's one way to look that
Yeah,
up.
that's another one that surprised me. Okay, we'll
And
talk
then
about
we
that in a
talked
second.
about not mailing bills from your home, especially anything that has your credit information, your bank information. If you put a check in the mail in an envelope from your home, they can wash those checks.
Meaning?
Thieves can go by and steal your mail, and they can
Which-
wash your check and go get it for whatever they want. They wash the ink off.
Really?
It's a method they use. I don't know how to use it. I'm not a criminal.
Okay, yeah, but the thing is, though, again, wouldn't they need a set of ID, or they use the check to establish an ID? Is that what you're saying?
They use the check
use
to
the
go
check and they'll
get
go.
something, yeah. Or they can mail
So
order.
yeah, so they'll wash the check, and they do steal mail. We know that.
Yeah.
So people need to be aware of that they'll do whatever they can. And again, you said 27,000 identity thefts a day.
A day.
So I don't know if you know this or not, and if you don't, that's fine. What are we talking about in lost wages? I'm guessing we're talking about millions, billions. I don't know if it's billions, but millions for sure, I would think.
It takes 60 seconds to steal an identity. It takes about 600 hours to clear it up. So I don't know about you. I don't have 600 hours to be messing with this stuff. I work.
Right. So yeah, no, I do
So-
too. 600 hours.
600
I think that's
hours.
important to.
And one of the big things is companies nowadays, and I work with companies with identity theft, they can lose $20 million, you know, if they're breached, if their data is breached. They're getting better and better about keeping it breached, but they have to provide identity theft for all their employees if their data is breached. It's a huge thing. I was talking, it used to be when I was really young, you didn't have to have health insurance because everyone had a local doctor that would come home to your home, take care of you. You know, it wasn't very expensive. But can you imagine living without health insurance today? It's kind of
Well,
the same with identity theft protection.
Supposedly a fine if you don't have it, right? I mean, according
Well,
to the
yeah.
ACA Act. I don't know if that, you know, how long we'll see about that, but yeah. So
So there are plans out there that give you 24-hour protection. You don't have to be doing the credit union inquiries, the Social Security inquiries, the driver's license. There are protection plans out there, and that's one of the things I can offer. But people have to call me for an appointment, and then I can come talk to them about that if they're interested.
and that's what you'll be presenting at several senior centers,
Yes.
not just at Manzano Mesa. I'm guessing.
No, I'm trying to get to all the senior centers at least twice a year now. I'm kind of getting on their schedule. And I have brochures and pamphlets to give seniors and then get to talk to them if they want to and make appointments with
Let me
them.
ask you this. You know, you'll not only present it at the senior centers, you know, Department of Senior Affairs. You do it. You know, that's what you do. What kind of reaction or what kind of response are you? I'm sure you're getting a good response. A lot of questions, I'm sure.
A lot of questions, and people are so happy to find out there's something they can do other than trying to do all this work themselves and have protection.
And I'm sure you've heard some cases where identity was actually stolen, right? I'm sure.
Yes, just last year, a senior, you were talking about your mom. A gentleman talked to me about this because his father had his tax return stolen before he could even file it.
So he's filing, and somebody's already filed because they've got.
And
his
then you
Social
have to deal with
Security
the
number.
IRS and get your money, and it's been given to someone else. It takes a long time.
And so you can't, you know, I guess the people that are prosecuting have a very hard time tracking these people down.
Yeah, oh yeah. Because they're not using real identities. How do you track them down?
So I guess that's a question I want to ask you too. I mean, how often are they, you know, caught or prosecuted? I don't know if you know that.
I don't know that.
yeah, and
I
that's-
wish I knew that.
And I think that's the thing too that people need to know, that 27,000 a day, you're not going to probably catch them. They go on to another victim. It's, you know, it's the grifters, man. I remember that
Right.
movie with it's yeah.
Right,
And nobody ever gets caught. You just go on to the next
Right.
scam.
Right.
And that's the scary thing, because like you said, and I want to make sure that we make these points, it takes 60 seconds to steal an identity. It takes 600 hours
To clear it
it up. You talked about 12 tips. Did we go through that?
We did get through all the 12 tips. I was marking them off. And I will have that information at the senior centers too when I visit.
You know what? I know we had wanted to do 30, but I don't know if there's anything else, you know, you wanted to give. We can wrap it up, and in closing, you know, again, we can talk about this for a little while though. Can you give us the best advice for? You mentioned some things about the plans and things like that,
Right.
and I think you mentioned, you know, the credit card, shred your documents.
Right.
Don't leave anything around that people. And I think a lot of people don't think about that. You know, it doesn't.
Don't give information on an incoming call or incoming email. Call the institution back on the official line.
Right.
That's an important one.
And I think one of the things is about identity theft, you don't think about it until it happens to you. In other words, it's never going to happen to me.
Right.
You don't think about it until it happens.
Right.
And then,
I'm never going to get in an accident because I'm a safe driver, but
And I think one of the things you said too is that everybody kind of thinks the best of people. You know, well, that would never happen. And gosh, when you mentioned 27,000 a day, and I'm sure that number will only increase in 2016 and 2017, I'm sure it's going to get worse, because, you know,
yes.
yeah, people are going to, if they don't have to work and they can just scam people.
And sometimes, you know, they bribe employees to give information for companies. There's been data breaches even at Sandia National Labs, the Department of Energy, the security clearances, UCLA medical records have been breached. There's all kinds of breaches out there too.
Yeah, and I think that's important to note. It's happened at the federal level too. You know, I mean, China's hacking our, you know.
Every day they have
Right,
a
so-
huge company that hacks as much as they can.
Boy, that's incredible. So I think that's even more of a reason. You know, just wrap this up for us if you could by, you know, you wanted to just sum it up for us. In other words, what can people do, and just sum up the whole show that we've done today if you could.
Well, sum it up is you could try and do all these things yourself, but you'll never be able to cover it. You need a protection plan that covers you 24/7 because you don't know when it's going to happen. And if someone else is looking 24/7, you can have that peace of mind that it's not going to happen to you. That's the best advice. Now, people can do all these things and probably curb a lot of it, but there's a lot of plans out there that can help.
Let me ask you a question, just to ask you this. These protection plans, how secure are they? I mean, let me ask you this, nothing's 100%, right? Even the protection plans, are those 100% foolproof?
Not all of them.
Okay,
You
all
have
right.
to compare.
Okay,
Compare
but
plans.
you're better if you have a plan than if you don't.
Don't.
So
Exactly.
we're just gambling without it, like, well, just
Exactly.
nothing will happen.
Right.
But with a plan, what
Right.
are you're 97% protected. What are you? Tell me. What's the percentage? What'd you say?
I wish I could give a percentage.
But
I
you're
wish
better
I
off
could.
with a
You're
plan
better off
than with
a
not
plan.
having one.
Right. I'd say you're 100 times better with a plan than without one because you're not going to remember to do everything. And there's a lot of plans. Not all of them are good. That's something I can offer seniors is comparison of plans. I have comparisons. So when they call me or come see me, I can offer comparisons, not just one plan.
Give us a phone number.
My phone number is 505-225-6691. Judy Johnston.
All right, Judy Johnston, Regional Vice President of Harvard Risk. Thanks for the great information today. I thought it was a great show. People need to know. You taught me a few things, and things that, that I think a lot of people, not just seniors, by the way.
Not just seniors.
It's
yeah.
young people, and anybody needs
It's
to know this, right? I mean,
anybody.
in other words, they're not just saying, well, this guy's 55, we'll get him, right?
They'll get whoever
It doesn't
they can.
matter.
They'll
So
get whoever they can.
I think this information is good for everybody. Thanks so much for being
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for being our guest. For the Department of Senior Affairs, I'm Ed Nunez.